Page 36, November 19th, 2021. Hello all, and welcome to another edition of the Book Nerd Diaries. We're the meditative bi-weekly podcast that dives deep into the latest books we've crossed off our endless to-read list. Spoilers ahead all, so please watch your step, and let's get our book nerd on. If you're listening to this podcast right now, I'd imagine that you, like me, are a fan of reading. Since long before the rise of the internet, books have served humanity as a vehicle by which we share stories and precious knowledge with each other in a way that transcends time and space. Even now, with the entire world at our very fingertips, there's nothing quite like holding a book in your hands and taking in the words carefully printed on the delicate paper pages. The main character of our book today, A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos, appreciates the power of reading more than most. As a dedicated seeker of knowledge, she treasures books more than gold, and most likely prefers their company to people more often than not. What makes her special, however, is that reading is far more than just an activity for her. It's a special power she and her family possess, to know the entire story of an object just by touching it. Having such an ability seems incredible, but if you look a little deeper, you'll find that some gifts aren't all they're cracked up to be. The book opens with a foreword explaining the story of the world we're being introduced to. It seems that this story may be placed in an alternate version of our own Earth. Humanity all started as one, but God divided them, then forgot them, before finally shattering the world itself into pieces in a rage. Next, we flash forward to our hero Ophelia, as she enters Anima's archive building to visit her great-uncle. This would be pretty typical behavior for most people, except she enters not through the door, but by stepping directly out of a mirror. It's also very early in the morning, before the archives even open, which the building itself does not appreciate at all. I have to admit, I had to reread the first couple of paragraphs a few times before proceeding to make sure I understood what was happening. The image of someone casually walking through a mirror into a seemingly sentient building is a pretty powerful one to start out with. It's slightly disorienting, but so deliciously unique that I was hooked instantly. Ophelia makes her way to her great-uncle, the archivist's apartment. He is, at first, incredibly surprised to see her, due to the early hour. But Ophelia explains that she has urgent news to share with him. It appears that she is arranged to marry a man from a warrior clan on the distant, brutal land known as the Pole. Being utterly devoted to her job as a museum curator, and having turned down multiple arranged marriages before, the thought of being wed against her will to a man she's never met, and never getting to see her home again, is a fate worse than death for Ophelia. Her great-uncle, whom Ophelia is closer to than just about anyone else in her family, is more than sympathetic, and offers to help her find more information on the Pole. They head into the very depths of the family archives, where Ophelia finds the book of her family's spirit, Artemis, and her great-uncle discovers a journal from a distant relative who had himself made an expedition to the Pole long ago. Their research is cut short, however, when her sister Adelaide shows up to give her a makeover. Ophelia, not being one for fashion or makeup, despises this. But Adelaide insists that she must look presentable when her new fiancé, whose name is revealed to be Thord, arrives. Ophelia pretends to play along, and agrees to get a new pair of boots, before swiftly using her powers to disappear through a mirror. When she arrives back home, her mother is deeply disappointed at the lack of change in her appearance, and asks her and her brother Hector to make themselves presentable. She has carefully planned days of entertainment to celebrate her daughter's engagement, and does not wish anything to ruin the work she's put in. They both oblige, despite not wanting to, and soon after, the entire family waits outside in pouring rain for the man who Ophelia is meant to marry. After a while, an airship arrives, and out of it steps what Ophelia first believes to be a polar bear. After a beat, she realizes that he is instead a towering man, wrapped in a thick fur coat. This, of course, is the mysterious Thorn. From the very beginning, he does very little to endear himself to his soon-to-be wife and in-laws, as he ignores all of them. Charming, to be sure. Thorn also wants nothing to do with the lavish costume ball that is being thrown for him, but instead immediately insists on an audience with their family's guardian spirit, Artemis. Grudgingly, his request is obliged, and they take him directly to the family's observatory, where Artemis resides. The spirit typically does not like visitors, but when Thorn hands her a box, presumably with a gift for her inside, she consents to give her blessing to Thorn and Ophelia's engagement. After this exchange, he walks right back out, signaling that it is time to go back home. Such behavior turns out to be par for the course for Thorn, as he insists that he must depart for the pool, with Ophelia in tow, in the wee hours of the very next morning. This comes as a shock to everyone, who had not been expecting to say goodbye to Ophelia for at least a couple more days. Ophelia, not wanting to marry this man to begin with, is devastated to be leaving her home and family so soon, and retreats to her room to cry her heart out. Her great uncle joins her, and comforts her with the knowledge that she is the strongest person he had ever known. These words, along with the knowledge that the choice is out of her hands, give her the courage to gather her things and join Thorn in his airship to make the harrowing journey to the pole. There, she must learn how to survive in the pole's bitterly cold weather, share her life with the man she wants nothing to do with, and navigate her place in the new intricate social hierarchy that she's been dropped into. Not to mention, she must also figure out why someone like Thorn would choose her as a bride over anyone else. He obviously feels much the same way about the engagement as she does, because he barely acknowledges her existence, let alone shows any warmth at all towards her. What is the purpose, then, of their match, if it makes both of them miserable? And could there possibly be some greater machinations at play, which she doesn't know the shape of yet? I was instantly drawn to A Winter's Promise by how utterly unique the world-building is. It's one part post-apocalyptic survival story, with people rebuilding society in the rubble of a destroyed planet. Ophelia's home of Anima, in particular, feels very Victorian steampunk, with the people's very formal style of dress, and the amount of emphasis on technology and science. On top of that, though, you also get the magic and deep political intrigue that you typically find in the traditional sword and sorcery style fantasy. This unique conglomeration of motifs probably sounds a little odd on paper, but I think that's what ultimately makes it work so beautifully. It's not quite urban fantasy, and it's not quite Tolkien. It's not quite sci-fi or mystery or Downton Abbey style drama, but it borrows little elements from all of these and blends them all together in a way that I haven't really found in any other books. It's completely its own thing, and that is something that I can truly respect. With a lot of books, I often find myself more drawn to either the settings or the characters. With The Night Circus, for example, I can physically see myself exploring the maze of elaborate black and white tents. They feel so real. With Howl's Moving Castle, you'd think that the castle itself would be the star. Instead, I find that element utterly dwarfed by the magnetic pull of Sophie, Hatter, and Howl as characters, as well as their relationship together. With A Winter's Promise, author Christelle Dabos perfectly juggles it all, creating wonderfully well-rounded characters, while allowing you to stop and enjoy the scenery along the way, too. One last thing that I should talk about is that I am a major sucker for protagonists who are smart. Usually, heroes in fantasy and sci-fi have some special weapon or brute strength to help them save the day. Ophelia, our bookish, brilliant protagonist in A Winter's Promise, relies purely on her wits to help her survive. She values facts, and isn't afraid to do what needs to be done to find them, which is instantly the way to my heart. If there is anyone I would recommend this book to, it would definitely be those who love a good adventure. One of the coolest features of this book is just how vividly realized the world is. The entire planet is a tattered ruin, consisting of so many different cultural and environmental ecosystems, and our protagonist, Ophelia, gets to explore quite a bit of it throughout the story. It's almost as if the readers get to go along for the ride with her, and it's wonderful. If you're looking for some thrills and chills, with a little magic mixed in, then A Winter's Promise and its 3 following sequels are definitely for you. As always, some elements might be difficult for some readers, so please feel free to check out the content warnings in our show notes before checking out this book for yourself. Here we conclude the main segment of our show today. But fear not, dear listeners. There's still more Book Nerd Diaries to come after this very quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Are you an author, fellow podcaster, or small business owner looking to spread the word about your product or service? Then let us help you. We offer a number of affordable monthly advertising packages in various price ranges. So if you'd like to hear your ad here in future episodes, please head on over to our page at ko-fi.com/bndpod and click on the Shop tab to see what works best for you. Again, that's ko-fi.com/bndpod. Then click on the Shop tab. We can't wait to work with you.
And welcome back, everyone. Now that we've made it to the other side of our break, let's head on over now to the nerdiest part of our show, the Trivia Corner. In this segment, we give you a trivia question related in some way to today's book. Ophelia, protagonist of A Winter's Promise and its subsequent sequels, can read objects with a touch. And so, we've got a reading-related question for you. Ready? Your question is, which famous former U.S. president is said to have read 1 book a day? Was it A. Theodore Roosevelt, B. Thomas Jefferson, or C. Abraham Lincoln? Please feel free to pause this if you'd like to make a guess before I give the answer. Ready? Your answer is A. Theodore Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt is probably most famous for being a renowned soldier, hunter, and explorer. It turns out, however, that the legendary Rough Rider was also a bit of a bookworm. Knowing how passionately the man pursued all of his other interests in life, it only makes sense that his boundless energy would also extend to his search for knowledge. Bully for him, I say. Our source for this question was ebookfriendly.com, and you can find the link in our show notes. With that, dear friends, we have finally made it to the end of our episode for today. More adventures in reading await. But before we go, we just have to say thank you so much to Julie and Katie, aka one of the very best sisters a podcaster could ever ask for being our incredible subscribers at patreon.com/bndpod. We truly can't do what we do without your kind monthly support. For as low as $2 a month, you too can get perks like early ad-free episodes, 2 bonus episodes a month, notes, scripts, and more. So please come join us. Thank you also to the wonderful people who have left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, shared our episodes on social media, or told the people in their lives about us. These are 100% free ways to help us grow our audience, and for small independent shows like ours, every little bit helps. Next week, Friday, November 26th, we'll be releasing a bonus episode just for our Patreon subscribers, and we'll be back in 2 weeks to open another page of the Book Nerd Diaries. See you then. The Book Nerd Diaries is written, edited, researched, and hosted by me, Amber Wilchin. Thank you so much to the wonderful Astrofrek from Pixabay for the use of our theme song, The Grand Entrance, and One Tomorrow 2 for our incidental music that plays during the Trivia Corner. If you'd like to connect with us online, please follow us on Instagram or Twitter at BNDPod, on Facebook at Book Nerd Diaries, or via our website at bndpod.wordpress.com. All the links you need are in our show notes, so come say hi. If you have any comments, questions, or ideas for future episodes to send my way, please feel free to drop us an email anytime at bndpod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, everyone, please be good to yourselves because the world needs you. And don't forget to support your local library.